Hello, 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 hello again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. Welcome back to Angela's Soapbox on Raging Elephants Radio. I am your hostess with the mostest, Angela Box. Yes, that's my real last name. It's always been fun. And, you know, once again, we're just chock full of creamy goodness that the filthy left gives us to have to digest every week. Sorry for that visual. I'll tell you, we try and get along with everyone. We want to coexist. We conservatives, we believe in individualism and individual liberty and freedom and all that good stuff. And we really do believe in coexisting with people. But the left does not believe in coexisting with people. The left always needs an enemy. It always needs someone to fight against. That's why I like to say when the left got gay marriage, the Holy Grail, they immediately shifted to, it's transgender. Wow, there's so many transgenders who are being oppressed. Black trans lives matter. It's just, it's just been so much. You have to laugh or you'll cry is kind of the way I look at it. Okay, so every week on my show, I like to dedicate a sea turtle killing plastic straw to a filthy leftist or a filthy leftist organization or someone who disappoints me greatly. And last week, even though we had a little break last week, I would have dedicated the straw to Greg Abbott. And actually, he would have gotten it the week before as well. We'll get into that, why Greg Abbott got the straw last week. But this week, the straw goes to the National Football League. And so as I sit here, I have my Diet Coke, and I'm going to take a swig. And, the NFL, a couple of years ago when this whole nonsense started with Colin Kaepernick, as I call him, the human Muppet, with his big old fro and his gonzo face, bless him. A couple years ago when this whole thing started and he took a knee because he was in desperate need of attention and wasn't playing as much for the 49ers as he used to. So he thought, how can I remain relevant and maybe get back on the field or at least get my name in the press? And so he decided to start kneeling. And he ostensibly said, it's because of police brutality. But this was a lie. And we've now seen it's a lie. Because not only is kneeling for the national anthem disrespectful to the flag and our military and our law enforcement, but that was the whole point. Because now, Black Lives Matter, the Marxist, racist organization that it is, has reared its head, as it did 4 years ago and 2 years ago, right before an election, but mostly right before a presidential election. They've reared their ugly heads again, and we've learned very quickly that this is not about police brutality, because the statistics do not lie. Last year in 2019, there were 9 unarmed black men or people who were killed by police. There were 17 white people. I mean, that's okay. In a country of 330 million people with interactions with police many, many times a day, that's literally the only amount of people who got killed, unarmed people by police. But, you don't see, quote, white America freaking out and saying white lives matter and starting organizations to defund the police, which is now what this has morphed into. And never forget that Colin Kaepernick wore his little socks that had the pigs, the police dressed as pigs, and Black Lives Matter saying, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I mean, this is the organization that the NFL has now bent over and grabbed their ankles for. And it makes me sick. And when the Texans coach, Bill O'Brien, who I used to like, I do love a butt chin. He's got a cute little butt chin. But when he caved in and said, I'll kneel with my players for the national anthem because Black Lives Matter, it just, I just want to say to the NFL, I guess you didn't learn your lesson a couple of years ago when you lost half your audience, if not more, with the Colin Kaepernick shenanigans. And then you finally said, okay, this is done. We're going to, everyone needs to stand for the national anthem, period. And now we're back to this again. But I guarantee you, because the left has become so woke and so forceful in telling America what they must think, what they must do, how you must fall in line or else. The NFL, even as it's being cannibalized by these people, is not going to learn their lesson. They're going to double down. And that's why in the first week, they've already said game 1 week, whatever that is, because, the Rona. But let's say September, first week of football. They've already said that they're going to play the Black national anthem, which presumably everyone will stand for, and then our national anthem, which presumably the players and the coaches and the beta cucks on the team will all kneel for. Now, not all of them will kneel. Certainly, many of them will stand. And I really do think that what we're experiencing right now with Black Lives Matter and all these Marxist mobs, it's and the masks, which we'll get into in a little bit. This is really just a massive psyop that we're all living through. A massive psychological operation. Things that the CIA used to run many, many years ago. I honestly swear to God, I think that's what we're in. It's like, how far can the American people be pushed? What can we make them do? Who's going to conform? Who's going to be a little sheep and fall in line, and who is not? And I certainly hope, if you're hearing my voice, that you are in the latter category. Because if you're not thinking for yourself, you fall in line with groups like Black Lives Matter, like the NFL. Because the NFL is so cucked at this point. C-U-C-K-E-D, cucked at this point. They think, well, we have to say Black Lives Matter because they do. Oh, God, if we don't support Black Lives Matter, they're going to say that we're racists and that we don't think Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's kind of the genius of the genesis of this racist organization, is that, for those of us, most of us know the story and the genesis of Black Lives Matter, but, a lot of people don't. Black Lives Matter was started about 4 years ago after the Ferguson, Missouri incident, where a violent criminal who had just robbed a store and the police were called to come get this kid, decided to charge a police officer named Darren Williams, go for his gun, and in the ensuing struggle, ends up getting shot. A guy named Michael Brown. Not the innocent little lamb that Black Lives Matter wants you to think he is. The lie of hands up, don't shoot was started by the Michael Brown incident in Ferguson, Missouri. And shortly thereafter, Black Lives Matter really got going as an organization, obviously funded by the same people who fund Antifa and other far-left organizations, people like George Soros and many other very wealthy leftists. But they're very clever in what they did with their name. Because this is, again, we're living in a society where the left has completely taken over the culture, dominates everything in academia, media, sports, Hollywood. And so just saying the name Black Lives Matter puts people on the defense. If you say, I don't support Black Lives Matter, the organization, because it's a racist, Marxist, terrorist organization, which it is. They are the very definition of a racist, terrorist organization, beating up random white people for existing, burning down buildings, looting their own neighborhoods. Yeah, that's the very definition of terrorism. But Roger Goodell and the NFL, they took a knee for them, didn't they? And they're going to see real quick, that normal America, of all colors, by the way, is sick to death of this constant division and constant hate and moving the goalposts. Because remember, we can't ever be done with racism, because it's the one thing the left has that they know that most Americans cower in fear of being called. And that's what's going on with the NFL. We'll pick up on this when we get back from the break. My name is Angela Box. You're listening to Angela's Soap Box on the great Raging Elephants Radio.
What's up, Saints and Patriots? I'm Apostle Claver, a proud Texas nationalist, and I'm here to tell you about Texit. For 25 years, Daniel Miller has been working to see the rebirth of the Republic of Texas. His work has been hard, but his passion is deep. For many Texans, there is a deep yearning, a burning to see the prophecy of Sam Houston come true. But the desire of their hearts comes with many questions. Texit has the answer. It's the new book from Daniel Miller and Defiance Press. Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. Texit charts the path to Texas independence. This riveting book of facts and philosophy will soothe your anxiety about the coming change and build your confidence that Texans can get it done. You'll want to buy several copies for your family and friends. Like I've said about this governmental mess, the only way out is out. And the best part of Texit, I'm in it. Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. It's selling like hotcakes. Buy it on RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
Doc says all the best words start with P. Prudence is a good word. Airlines will always say, put your own mask on first, then help your loved ones. Prudence means making sure that your family food supply is secure. Most stores have at best a 72-hour supply of food, and if something goes wrong, resupply will not happen quickly. You should have at least a 90-day supply of your favorites because it will allow you to weather the worst crisis and make plans for the future. The answer is newmanna.com. N-U-M-A-N-N-A. New Manna is not just food storage, but really tasty food that you will enjoy eating. New Manna food is designed to last for 25 years, but many people enjoy it several times a week. Now is the time to lay in a supply of tasty New Manna food for your family. Be prepared and know your family is safe. Go to newmanna.com right now for fast delivery. That's newmanna.com.
Green Air Technology will sanitize, sterilize, and defunkifies your home. Our treatment utilizes a high-output biocleaner to eradicate bacteria, germs, and airborne pathogens and allergens in any home, vehicle, or facility. So if your facility or home smells funky like a bow-legged monkey, call Green Air Technologies. We are dedicated to eliminating odor and airborne contaminants at home, at work, or even in your vehicle. Now featuring Biosphere. Call Jim Green at 346-254-9217 or go to greenairtech.com. 346-254-9217 or go to greenairtech.com.
Hey, this is Claver. I want to take a few seconds to give you some words of encouragement. Go after the dream. Some of you have embraced the dream of having your own talk show. Congratulations. You've got a lot to say, and you have the confidence to believe you can do a great job. You should start on RagingElePhantsRadio.com. Purchasing your own block time is cheap. Yeah, a lot cheaper than your local terrestrial station for sure. And we don't leave you to sink or swim. Consultation on how to get up and running is part of our service to you as an RER independent producer. Shoot me an email, info@RagingElePhantsRadio.com. info@RagingElePhantsRadio.com. I'll send you a full media kit. Launch that dream right now with RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
Welcome back, my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. Welcome back to Angela's Soap Box on Raging Elephants Radio. I am Angela Box. I could talk about the race hustlers of BLM all hour, and I'm sure I'll get back to them. I mean, they'll be peppered in. I mean, honestly, they are the gift that keeps on giving. It's, I want them to go away and to stop dividing us. I'm talking about the left as a whole. I want them to stop dividing us, but we know that the left will never stop, and everything they've done has brought us to the point we're at, where people are literally afraid to say what they think for fear of being fired or canceled or doxxed. This is 1984 and Brave New World come to life. And if you remember, 1984 was the government takeover of speech and history and statue burning and all that. The government was doing it. And in Brave New World, the premise was that people have been completely put to sleep because they're being, their devices, the commercialism, the movies, whatever, the entertainment world has completely dulled them down. And everyone's more addicted to their devices and feeling good, the hedonism of our culture. So if you combine the two novels, it's basically what we're living now. But, the thing that we have on our side, other than facts and logic, is that I do believe that the silent majority is there. I do not believe that one single person who voted for Trump 4 years ago is going to go, never mind, I think I'm going to go for Joe Biden. And we've seen now with, the Bush family and all the never Trumpers out there and the rhinos who clearly, I think, might be a little afraid of what might come out with certain investigations into Epstein and with Durham and Barr and whatever. They're doing whatever they can to make sure Trump is defeated. I mean, when the Bush family decides to get on board with Joe Biden, who's now been completely co-opted by AOC and Bernie Sanders, and it's like, wow, okay. Trump really he's the one guy standing up to all of it. And that's why I think the silent majority who supports him, we realize he's not a saint. That's not why anyone elected him. We elected him because of his ideas and because of his common sense vision for America. A true colorblind society where all boats are rising with the tide. And that's what we had until the Rona came. Coincidentally, right before the election. There are no coincidences, by the way. But I'll tell you, this is how stupid the left is. And they are dumb. They are dumb. The thugs of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, along with all the other woke corporations and sports and academia, don't seem to grasp that the alleged systemic racism, which, by the way, doesn't exist, but the systemic racism they're complaining about was created by the very Democrats for whom they vote. All the Democrat-run cities and states that have ruined black communities, schools, and families for generations, but somehow it's Trump's fault, and Trump's been in office for, 4 years, less than 4 years. He's been on the public political stage since June of 2015. It's when their heads started to explode. I'll never forget when he came down the escalator and everything he was saying, I was like, holy crap. Someone is actually putting voice to things that I've been talking about for 20 years when I lived in LA, seeing how illegal immigration was completely destroying the state. And I would tell people back in Oklahoma or Texas, oh my God, you can't even imagine how bad it is here. Like, there's illegal immigrants everywhere. It's ruining the state. And people would say, oh, you're just over-exaggerating. And I'd say, oh, you wait, they're coming. They're coming. And sure enough, a few years later, they made their way to Tulsa and Oklahoma City and other places. I had friends that were poo-pooing me. So when Trump came down and started talking about things that I was caring about, how our reliance on China He's the only guy for 30 years who's been talking about that. Joe Biden, on the other hand, cozies up to China, and his filthy crack pipe son, Hunter, is enriched to the tune of $1.5 billion because he's managing some fund of theirs. I mean, it's so insidious and incestuous and insane. But anyway, when Trump came down that escalator, and people, of course, thought he was a clown at first, but he ain't a clown. He's not a clown. He put his finger on what normal America cares about. And I don't think normal America has changed that much. Yes, the left has become even more aggressive. Yes, for the last 3.5 years, this filthy media, this corrupt media, and deep state and rhinos and never Trumpers have been trying to get rid of Trump because, remember, he's just standing in the way of us. They want to get rid of us, and they don't even hide it anymore. I mean, when people are being canceled left and right for saying something like, I think Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. How dare you say that about the peaceful little lambs who want to defund the police and make sure cops are killed? How dare you say that? How dare you say that about those peaceful little lambs beating up a Houston man for telling them not to cut in line, and as they're kicking him, saying, Black Lives Matter. By the way, I haven't heard anything about their arrest, Sylvester Turner. It is time as Americans. We cannot just depend on one man. And thank God we have him. You may not like his tweeting. I wish he would stick to the script a little more sometimes too. But we can't just depend on one man. It is time for all of us to push back. And if we as Americans, as Texans, do not stand up and defend common sense, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, the founding, and America, you will be bulldozed by these fascists. And I mean, you can, even in Houston, where I am living at the moment, it is depressing as hell out there. Because Governor Abbott, I for the life of me, I cannot understand why he took this turn. A couple years ago, he threw in with the mask Nazis and said, the rising cases of the Rona. We all have to wear masks now. Well, riddle me this, Governor Abbott. Why the hell didn't we have to wear masks in March or in April when everything was at its zenith, when the death rate was rising, and now the death rate is plummeting? Just because there's more cases doesn't mean that people are dying. In fact, it's the opposite. And the reason there are more cases is because they're testing the crap out of everybody. And the more positive cases that even as young people are getting the dreaded Rona and not getting really sick or being asymptomatic or, feeling like they have a cold a couple days and then they're fine, that's actually a good thing. That's what herd immunity is all about. But Governor Abbott, I don't know who in Austin got to him, but he fell in with the mob. And he fell in with the mask Nazis. And some people say, why do you make such a big deal about the mask? Just wear it. No, I am not going to wear it. First it's the masks, then it's something else. Because as we know, with the left, it's all about incrementalism. And now their incrementalism has sped up to a, warp speed. There is no more incrementalism in the left. It is no holds bar, full push towards Gomorrah, full push towards fascism, full push towards totalitarianism. So no, I'm not wearing your stupid mask because it doesn't work. A piece of paper or a bandana is not going to stop a teeny tiny little coronavirus molecule from coming into your mask and getting you. It is the most absurd thing. In fact, in March, again, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, Mr. Deep State himself, saying, the masks are just basically to make you feel better. Just, psychological. And that's why I say this is the biggest psyop. We're all living under this incredible psyop right now. How far can they push us? And again, we got one guy, Trump, who says, yeah, if you want to wear a mask, go ahead, but I'm not going to mandate it. And then you have another candidate, Joe Biden, who doesn't know what day it is half the time. Oh, sorry, most of the time. He says, oh, I'm going to mandate the mask. And we're going to get back into the WHO. And I'm going to make sure all those illegals get amnesty. And I'm going to make sure we're going to import more low-skilled wage earners to screw over more actual American citizens. I'm going to make sure that all the illegals get free health care, and I'm going to make sure the Green New Deal goes through. George W. Jib. All the rest of you, never Trumpers, you're going to throw in with that? You're going to throw in with the mask Nazis? I will not comply. Come and get me. We'll be right back. Angela's Soap Box on Raging Elephants Radio. Stay tuned.
Hey, Barry the Music Man here for Tejas Smoke Depot. They have everything you need when it comes to smoke. Check out the 150 square foot walk-in humidor filled with a huge selection of fine cigars. Or give them a call at 830-990-1472 and order up what you want. Maybe you like to roll your own. They have it. Maybe you need a gift for a smoker in the family. How about a new pipe? They have a large selection, even a cross-section of great beers in stock. In a hurry, come by and use the drive-thru. Located at 1639 West Highway 290 in Fredericksburg, Texas. Out of town? Visit them at the website, TejasSmokeDepot.com, or call 830-990-1472. That's 830-990-1472. It's smoking.
Hey, Texans. This is Wendy. Let me introduce you to the RER Pet Store powered by Amazon. In the RER Pet Store, anything that Amazon carries is available to you. Instead of going directly to Amazon, come to RagingElePhantsRadio.com first. Click on the RER Pet Store link and search for whatever you need for your furry buddy. How about this? Whenever it's time for dog or cat food, get it through the RER Pet Store powered by Amazon. Another easy way to support the rebellious voice of Texas liberty. RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
Texas independence. Have you ever thought about it? What exactly does it mean, or is it even possible? Sam Houston said,
Texas will raise her head among the nations.
Was he a dreamer or a prophet? You can get the answers to these questions in the book Lying in the Sand by Daniel Miller. Doc Green says it's required reading for every Texan. Lying in the Sand by Daniel Miller gives you the information you need to be prepared to give an answer to anyone that asks. As a Raging Elephants Radio listener, you are the go-to person for your friends.
RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
This book is more than a good read. It will equip you to reach others while pursuing a better future for your family. Get your copy now by clicking on the link on RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
That's RagingElePhantsRadio.com. Since a portion of the proceeds goes to support Raging Elephants Radio, it may be time for you to cross that line in the sand.
That line in the sand. RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
Harris County has a crime problem. Who are you going to call? It's harder than ever to know who you can trust. You can trust Joe Dana. Group culture is always set by leadership, whether it's an airline or a city. As a lieutenant constable every day, he honors his oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of Texas. Protect and serve is in his DNA. As a Harris County Sheriff, Joe Dana will restore your trust in the Sheriff's Department and improve the morale of the deputies on the street. You can trust Joe Dana as Harris County Sheriff.
I am Lieutenant Constable Joe Dana, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Joe Dana campaign.
Listen up, Texans. RER Nation has got to grow. We've got to have those RER app downloads. Android devices. Here's how to share the RER app. Get to your application manager through Settings, tap the RER app logo. There's your Google Play right. Scroll down, see the share icon, hit it. Choose text or messenger. Pick a couple of Texas Patriots. Give a testimony in 160 characters. Send. iOS device folks, do the equivalent through the App Store. Let's get it viral. RER app.
Where the time just flies, doesn't it? Quick housekeeping. Every week on my blog, AngelasSoapbox.com, obviously no apostrophe in Angela's, so it'll look like there's two S's after Angela, AngelasSoapbox.com. I write an article, and this week my article is entitled, Black Lives Matter is a Terrorist Organization, period. Full stop. And I want to get back to that just a little bit about the whole idea of systemic racism in America. It is such an insult to normal people who simply just go about their lives and want to treat fellow human beings as individuals with dignity who have different life experiences but are all created by the same God, who all bleed red. This is a good country. It is a decent country. Its people are kind. Most people are good. Some people are bad, which is why we have jails and prisons. And there's an old Richard Pryor bit, if you've never seen it. When he was filming a movie, Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder, and they had to shoot in Arizona, the Arizona Penitentiary or something. And he said, I got to talking to the guys, and he's like, these are real life murderers and rapists. And he's like, yeah, I killed. And Rich is like, why'd you kill all of them? And because they were there. And he goes, thank God we have penitentiaries. Because I think, and his whole point was, he was kind of militant before that and saying, too many black men in prison, 80% of the population is black. And then he gets there and he's like, whoa, thank God for the prisons. And this systemic racism, gaslighting, is done by Democrats. Because remember, and this is what people have to understand, that before the Great Society kicked in the 1950s, even under Jim Crow, which was horrific, but even under Jim Crow, black families were intact. Black employment was high. And then when the Great Society came and the Democrats decided, how can we further enslave the black community? Oh, I know. We'll tell them fathers aren't necessary. You can have as many children with as many women as you want. The state will take care of you. And it'll take care of your babies. And it'll take care of your baby mamas. And then they ruined the schools in the inner cities. And they ruined lives. That's the Democrats. All this statue desecration, book burning is what it is. They've already talked about books that they think are problematic, things like Tom Sawyer, other books, Brer Rabbit or Song of the South, anything that's Gone with the Wind, obviously, which is a fantastic novel. I think I mentioned that before. It's very long, but it's a really fantastic piece of historical fiction. And clearly Margaret Mitchell did her research when she was studying the antebellum South. And it's not a celebration of slavery. It's a look back on a time that we don't live in anymore. So we need to learn from it. But all these, statue desecrations and everything they're doing, of course, it started with just the Confederate ones. And then it went to, let's tear down Frederick Douglass's statue. That's a great idea. It makes the Democrats make you not realize that they're the ones who did all this. It makes them easier for them to repeat their history without you knowing it. Enslaving the black community, which is what they've always been about. And then groups like Black Lives Matter. Do you know how much money Black Lives Matter raised from woke dummies over the past couple of months? About $400 million. And guess where most of that went? Well, of course, salaries and quote overhead. It's not a 501c3, which means it's not a nonprofit. Their money is funneled to the administrative wing of it, outreach to, continue the rioting and the printing of signs. It was perfect Black Lives Matter signs. And then the rest of it's funneled through Act Blue, which is a Democrat super PAC. Joe Biden, coincidentally, and the DNC, coincidentally, had their highest quarter take in the second quarter of this year. Gosh, I wonder why. But of course, the media wants to tell you, this is because everyone hates Trump. No, it's because a bunch of stupid, guilty white liberals decided to throw money at a racist terrorist organization. And then it was funneled through Act Blue. That's why Joe Biden had his highest quarter in fundraising. But I want to get back a little bit to what's going on in Texas and the fact that, our unofficial motto of come and take it. I feel that way now walking into every store I'm in, because during the time of the mask ordinance, I'm literally the only person in a store without a mask on. And I have friends who are conservatives, and they're not as balls to the wall as I am. Like I could not wait if someone comes up to me and says something. Like, I literally salivate. But so far, nobody has said a word to me. I've gotten some side eyes, but no one has said a word to me. The closest that happened was I was at Walmart the other day. I walk in, no mask, look around and see all the sheep in the masks. And the greeter goes, "You have to put on your mask." And I said, "Actually, no, I don't. The ordinance says you have to stay 6 feet apart. And only if you can't stay 6 feet apart do you have to put on your mask." And then she goes, "Oh, but you have to put on your mask." I said, "Again, the ordinance says you have to be 6 feet apart and practice, social distancing." And I was, getting my things, and I'm like, any second I expected a security guard to come find me. Did he? Nope. Nope. And let that be a lesson to you. Just don't wear the mask. Just don't do it. Refuse. Say, "I'm so sorry. My personal liberty is none of your concern." But when Abbott threw in, when he was, jumping around, buying into this propaganda, when, again, 2 months ago, he said, masks don't really do anything. I really do feel like it's to make people feel better. Like logic, facts, reason, these things don't matter anymore. It's put on a mask and shut up and obey. And again, the mask is just it's a microcosm of the bigger picture going on, of how the left, the state, what have you, is trying to control your life in ways large and small. And so when they tell you that you're being selfish and you want people to die, it's like, really? Okay. Again, there's a 99.99% survival rate. And the other day, I think it was Thursday, maybe it was Friday, Thursday, Sylvester Turner. Whew, I have things to say about Turner that I'll probably have to save for the next segment. But Sylvester Turner's out there talking about how so many people have died from this virus. It's just, my God, you know what? You know how many people have died in Houston since June 6th? June 6th. Think. Well, how many people do you think? Oh, 5 people. 5 people. And then he named them off. He didn't say their ages or how many comorbidities they had because, spoiler alert, they probably were all elderly or trending elderly with comorbidities, meaning overweight, diabetes, heart, whatever. All the comorbidities we hear about. And then he said we need to all stay home. And I'm sure little Dora, the woke Hitler explorer, was standing next to him in her leopard print mask, because she's so chic. And that reminds me of a Washington Post article about 4 months ago when this insanity really kicked into high gear. And it said, it was basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it basically said that mask wearing is now the newest way to express yourself, because you can wear all kinds of different masks. Although I feel like if I walked in with a Trump 2020 mask or a MAGA thing, they might not like that too much. Call me crazy. Here's what I wonder about Sylvester Turner and Dora. Elena Hidalgo, that fraud. I wonder if they take off their masks when the media isn't filming them. You know, like all the other people do, like the other reporters do, and like Dr. Fauci does. So he's up there testifying. Oh, I'm testifying. And then the minute the media turns off their cameras, there was one camera still rolling, obviously, because they caught it. He just takes his mask off and starts chit-chatting away. These people in the media, our overlords, our woke overlords, as I like to call them, they must think that we are as dumb as their supporters and their constituents. I mean, clearly Sylvester Turner thinks we're all sheep. And sadly, as I walk around Houston this past week, I can attest to the fact that we are evidently sheep. Not me, thankfully, but a whole lot of other people. And I feel like I have an old boyfriend and we're still friends. He said to me, did what you suggested. I walked into CVS the other day and I didn't wear a mask and nobody said anything to me. And I said, yeah, good for you, man. Fight back, push back. Every little bit helps. This is Angela Box on Angela's Soap Box on Raging Elephants Radio, and we shall return.
Doc says all the best words start with P. Prudence is a good word. Airlines will always say, put your own mask on first, then help your loved ones. Prudence means making sure that your family food supply is secure. Most stores have at best a 72-hour supply of food, and if something goes wrong, resupply will not happen quickly. You should have at least a 90-day supply of your favorites because it will allow you to weather the worst crisis and make plans for the future. The answer is newmanna.com. N-U-M-A-N-N-A. New Manna is not just food storage, but really tasty food that you will enjoy eating. New Manna food is designed to last for 25 years, but many people enjoy it several times a week. Now is the time to lay in a supply of tasty New Manna food for your family. Be prepared and know your family is safe. Go to newmanna.com right now for fast delivery. That's newmanna.com.
What would happen if one day Washington, D.C. decided that the Texas Tea Party had gone too far? What if Texans really stood up for their constitutional rights? Ripped from today's headlines, a novel that explores that premise. Could it really happen? This is a thriller in the mode of Tom Clancy and Joel Rosenberg. Author David Thomas Roberts explores a scenario that will have you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. Find out why readers use phrases like, I couldn't put it down, riveting, a little too real, Can Texas Ranger Pops Younger save the day? You will only know when you read Patriots of Treason. You'll want to add this book to your collection, and to save time and aggravation, just order the sequel, State of Treason, along with it. You'll be glad you did. Click on the banner ad at the top of the page. RagingElephantsRadio.com.
RagingElephantsRadio.com.
What's up, Saints and Patriots? I'm Apostle Claver, a proud Texas nationalist, and I'm here to tell you about Texit. For 25 years, Daniel Miller has been working to see the rebirth of the Republic of Texas. His work has been hard, but his passion is deep. For many Texans, there is a deep yearning, a burning to see the prophecy of Sam Houston come true. But the desire of their hearts comes with many questions. Texit has the answer. It's the new book from Daniel Miller and Defiance Press. Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. Texit charts the path to Texas independence. This riveting book of facts and philosophy will soothe your anxiety about the coming change and build your confidence that Texans can get it done. You'll want to buy several copies for your family and friends. Like I've said about this governmental mess, the only way out is out. And the best part of Texit, I'm in it. Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. It's selling like hotcakes. Buy it on RagingElephantsRadio.com.
Can you do it? The RER 2+2 Challenge. Howdy, rowdy Texans. It's me, E, the millennial voice of RER. I'm a big fan of RagingElephantsRadio.com. More Texas voters should be listening to RER every day. A better, deeper knowledge of how Texas works will help Texas voters to make Texas more like Texas. The RER 2+2 Challenge. Listen to RER 2 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. You'll learn more about Texas politics in 2 weeks than you've ever known. Mark it on your daily calendar. Set your phone alarm. The RER 2+2 Challenge. 2 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. RagingElephantsRadio.com. The rebellious voice of Texas liberty. Can you do it? The RER 2+2.
Back to Angela's Soapbox on Raging Elephants Radio. As Dwight Schrute on The Office used to say, fact. Only an N95 mask will protect you from some viruses, not all viruses. An N95 mask is that one that the medical profession wears that's got a vacuum seal to your face. And yet a hazmat, got the suit on looking like you're in the last scene of E.T. But you know what? You go ahead and keep wearing your toxic little diaper on your face. Knock yourselves out. I mean, if you want to cloister yourself in your little hazmat suit and your filthy toxic diaper over your face until coronavirus no longer exists, then have at it. Go for it. The rest of us would like to live our lives, preferably with no riots. I mean, guys, this whole thing, my sister was recently in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and she was like, oh my God, it's like a whole nother country here. She goes, Angela, no one was in a mask. People were out in the open wearing MAGA hats. No one was harassing them. Everyone got along like peas and carrots. During the 4th of July celebrations, people were yelling Trump, Trump, Trump out their windows at the resort they were at. And then you come back to Houston, and it's like, it's like a blue state. It's a blue state in the middle of a red state that's rapidly getting bluer, sadly. Thanks, illegal immigration. Thanks, Barack Obama and your refugee resettlement program. Thanks, open borders. Thanks, Sheila Jackson Lee. But, I mean, we're dealing with a society that on the one hand is growing more violent and insane, and then on the other hand is complete wuss. sissy, man bun, beta, cuck culture. And they're coexisting together. You've got, the most violent radicals also within their core and their center, they're cowards and they're sissies. I mean, guys, do you want to know about a real pandemic? Learn a little about the Black Death, which had several times in our history that popped up, and no one really knows why. There's an interesting theory, oddly enough, that they say maybe some particles from space hit the Earth, and I don't know, because scientists really can't determine why did the Black Death pop up at certain points in our history. But anyway, people were literally dying in the streets. Like, it killed 40% of the population. Like, that's a pandemic. This is not a pandemic. This has a death rate of 0.003 to 0.001. The flu has a death rate of 0.01. So when the leftist media starts wringing their hands, again, the same leftists who have no problem rioting and looting and, quote, protesting hundreds of thousands at a time for Black trans lives matter, you bigots. These are the same people that are like, oh my God, coronavirus is 10 times more deadly than the flu. Yeah, the flu is 0.01, or the corona is 0.01, the flu is 0.001. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. It's like they're both minuscule, okay? And they both hit the same kind of population. Actually, the flu hits kids way more than corona is. And why are we keeping the schools closed down? Why are they even threatening this? And again, it's the same leftists who constantly tell us that we must have a robust cradle to the grave public education. And the children must be fed at school 3 meals a day, and they can come in on Saturdays and Sundays. And yet these are the same people keeping kids out of school. And on the one hand, the reason they're doing it is obvious. They want to keep the economy shut down, screw over Trump, and screw over normal America. So they have to have a parent home. And, I used to be a teacher. Most people know that I used to be a teacher, at least those who know my story at all. And I was one of the few teachers who actually tried to instill some, free market economy, the true history of America into my lessons. Not a lot of them do. And I could see what the left has done. That has been, it's all about the education system and our media at this point. That is why we are dealing with what we're dealing with. Conservatives surrendered the education system to the teachers' unions 30, 40 years ago, and it's just a disaster. So on the one hand, it's like, good, I'm glad the kids aren't having to be indoctrinated. But on the other hand, it's like, no, come on. When you keep the school shut down, the kids are not learning, because they're not being socialized. They're not learning how to walk in a straight line or interact with different kinds of people, which, again, in our very tolerant society, inclusive society, which America is, it is. Don't listen to what the left says. You have to learn how to get along with different kinds of people, not just your brothers and sisters and your mommies and daddies spoon feeding you everything. And then, of course, you're talking about kids with special needs, it's a community I worked with quite a bit when I was substitute teaching. And all of these special needs children have very detailed, they're called IEPs. I think they're called something else now, but it's an individualized education program. And, teachers and parents have to come up with this thing for these kids. And it's very specific things that these kids need. And they're not being met. And isn't that the whole point, is that we want to educate the next generation. We want to make sure that they're competent readers and they can do math. Of course, the public schools have completely failed them in most of that, and it's just propaganda machines. So again, I go back and forth of, well, maybe it's not such a bad thing. But no, it is, because parents need to get back to work. And if you keep the schools closed down, you keep America shut down. And again, it's all about the election. So all these people are, and then there's this alternative part of me. It's like, well, I know that election day +1, it's going to magically disappear and we'll all go back to normal. I mean, everybody knows that on some level. The mask Nazis, Gavin Newsom, I was just on Twitter, the detestable governor of California, he's, wear a mask. The propaganda is just unbelievably thick. And it is really, if you're have any common sense at all and you see who's pushing the propaganda, it's all political. So the other day, speaking of political and big tech tyranny, I had a little back and forth with someone on Instagram the other day. I mean, just a mindless leftist, and he was like, and I posted something about how racist and terroristic Black Lives Matter was, and he came back with the sheep line of, wait a minute, are you saying that Black lives don't matter? I mean, again, this is kind of the brilliance of the name of Black Lives Matter, because if you say, I think Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, well, what do you mean? And so I explained to him, because he's stupid and he was wearing a mask in his avatar or whatever, that the organization Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization and that all lives matter. And then he came back with, why are you saying that, why aren't you wearing a mask? You need to protect people. You're being selfish. And I said, you're a freaking moron. This is all political. And this is how dumb he was. But again, how brainwashed the left has made people. He said, how is a mask political? They're just wanting to keep us safe. Safe. Hashtag stay home, stay safe. And so I called him a pandering fool or a knee-jerk idiot or something. And Instagram told me that was in violation of their community standards, that it was harassing language. I was like, because I called him a pandering idiot, which he is. But again, the left can do whatever they want. We have surrendered. Conservatives are very much live and let live people. We kind of just want to do our own thing and not be bothered. But it's time that conservatives get in the arena and start pushing back on all of this nuts stuff. The fact that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube are removing conservatives left and right. The cancel culture insanity. Although there's a delicious thing going on this week. I don't know if you read about the Harper's letter. It was an open letter against cancel culture, which, I'm all for, but then you see who's co-signing it. And it's a bunch of filthy leftists. Gloria Steinem, Noam Chomsky, who else? Oh, J.K. Rowling, who's had a taste of her own medicine recently. And I just think it's so delicious that the revolution is eating its own. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. We are now in the Robespierre part of the French Revolution, where it's guillotine time for everybody, off with their heads. And the left is, they're not disappointing in their fascism. So these leftists all wrote an open letter against cancel culture. It's like, well, hang on a minute. You filthy leftists are the ones who made this possible. And I thank God every day I have the ability now to speak out and not worry about my job, because I work in politics, I work in media, and I don't have to kowtow to them anymore. But so many Americans are afraid to even open their mouths and speak. We need to not be afraid anymore, people. We need to not be afraid. It is up to all of us to push back. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for this country. Say, no, I'm not a racist. And just because I say I'm not a racist doesn't axiomatically mean I am. Like, you suck. Like, F off, you suck. It's Angela Box on Raging Elephants Radio. Angela Soap Box on Raging Elephants Radio. Be right back.
RER 2+2 Challenge. Howdy, rowdy Texans. It's me, E, the millennial voice of RER. I'm a big fan of RagingElePhantsRadio.com. More Texas voters should be listening to RER every day. A better, deeper knowledge of how Texas works will help Texas voters to make Texas more like Texas. The RER 2+2 Challenge. Listen to RER 2 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. You'll learn more about Texas politics in 2 weeks than you've ever known. Mark it on your daily calendar. Set your phone alarm. The RER 2+2 Challenge. 2 hours a day, every day for 2 weeks. RagingElePhantsRadio.com. The rebellious voice of Texas liberty.
Oh my goodness. That was a quick break. Guys, I had such a great time with you. Again, talking smack about the left. So much I didn't get to. I'm going to save some of this for next week because it will not spoil. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at The Box That Rocks. BOX is my last name. That and then ROXX. It's on Instagram too. Facebook is Angela Box Public. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Saturday with me or whenever you're listening to this. And I will talk to y'all next week on Angela's Soapbox on the great Raging Elephants Radio.